Coming up tonight, the Prime Minister expected to address the nation later tonight. Meanwhile, the number of coronavirus cases continue to increase, and how a local movement is celebrating Emancipation Day.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis is expected to address the nation immediately after this newscast. His address comes as coronavirus cases continue to rise over the weekend, with 25 new cases reported on Saturday and 49 reported on Sunday. That brought the country's total number of cases to 648. Of those 49 cases recorded on Sunday, 27 were in New Providence, 10 in Grand Bahama, 8 in Bimini, 2 in Cat Key, 1 in Moores Island, and 1 on the Berry Islands. 22 people are currently hospitalized. Meanwhile, nearly 1 year after Grand Bahama's RAN Memorial Hospital was damaged by Hurricane Dorian, renovations are still ongoing. State Minister for Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction, IRAM Lewis.
We have several construction companies on site. The COVID-19 unit itself is being constructed by SRA, headed by Sanford Culmer. They are doing a tremendous job.
Lewis and other cabinet ministers in Grand Bahama toured the hospital on Wednesday. He said there are a number of areas that still need work, as he insisted special focus is being placed on completing a COVID-19 ward.
The lobby area, the pharmacy, the wards, the OR section, as well as the pediatric ward. And any other areas that we can complete within a timeline, that is where the focus is. The contractors are working extra shifts to ensure that at least those salient areas are completed. But again, special focus is being given to the COVID-19 section, being done by Mr. S.R.A. Culmer, and all of the components that he needed, the long lead items, they are here. The electricity is on, the air conditioning system is on, and they're currently installing the seamless flooring.
With some family islands falling victim to the recent surge in COVID-19 cases, members of the opposition are calling on government to do more in making sure the family islands are prepared for COVID-19. Jasmine Brown has the details in this report.
Both Progressive Mobile Party leader Philip Brave Davis and Deputy Leader Chester Cooper expressed grave concern over the fact that COVID-19 cases have now been reported on several family islands, including those islands they represent in the House of Assembly. Davis, who is the MP for Cat Island, Rum Key and San Salvador, says the fact that COVID-19 is spreading across the Bahamas is alarming.
But I do know that about 2 weeks ago, they didn't have many kits in Cat Island. In Rum Key, they had 1 kit, 1 test kit, and in San Salvador, they were not sure whether they had any kits, and that was about 2 weeks ago.
Cat Island reported its first case of COVID-19 on July 21st, while Exuma reported its first case of COVID-19 just this week. The cases come as officials say the Bahamas is in the midst of the second wave of COVID-19, as more than 200 cases have been reported in July. Grand Bahama and New Providence have accounted for the vast majority of new cases. However, Exuma's and Ragged Island Member of Parliament Chester Cooper said there clearly needs to be more focus on the family islands.
The doctors and healthcare officials are at the moment constrained in terms of the availability of general supplies. I suspect that this is the case across all of the family islands, and I urge the government to act swiftly in ensuring that we protect our frontline workers and ensuring that we are adequately equipped and we build capacity to ensure that we do what needs to happen in the family islands to protect the health and well-being of our citizens.
While health officials have insisted that family islands are more than prepared to deal with COVID-19, Cooper says more should be done. However, he added he maintains a good relationship with officials in Exuma.
I've had access to the officials, the chief of police, the administrator. I would say, though, that the administrator himself is at the moment in isolation. due to a possible contact with one of the cases. He is doing well. He is negative, and his staff, out of the abundance of caution, is also isolated at home. But we've been able to speak on a daily basis, and there haven't been any issues at this point.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
The Bahamas Public Services Union is calling on government to communicate with unions and for widespread testing after outbreaks in a few areas of the public service. Bethany McDermott has the details.
Bahamas Public Services Union President Kimsley Ferguson is calling for widespread COVID-19 testing for the public service. His comments come days after it was revealed that an employee at the Attorney General's office tested positive for the virus, and after 2 wards at Princess Margaret Hospital were closed for the same reason.
I believe that, and I agree with the fact that there needs to be mass testing. If they want to start in the various work environments, that is fine, but we would know what the status of our population is more so if we do more testing. And so I don't know whether or not the government is trying to avoid the expense of doing it, but I am of the view that is the way to go. So we would be quite aware of what the status of the Bahamian people are and what we have to mitigate against.
Ferguson added that the union's concern is for the health and safety of its members. The BPSU president said the relationship between unions and government could be better.
The relationship between the trade unions in this country and the government desires much improvement. And so if some stance needs to be taken, and it's disappointing that we have to take this particular position in the midst of such a sensitive time, while people are having disregard for the union, then we would do what is necessary.
Ferguson said he has made several attempts to meet with Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis and is still trying to meet with the new health minister. He made this plea to the minister.
And so I want to take this opportunity again to say to the Honorable Mr. Renwood Wells, congratulations on your appointment, but we do need you to function in the capacity of the Ministry of Health. We do bargain for some of the employees that are under your supervision, and so we need to have a discussion with you. Please check your WhatsApp. I would have sent you a dissertation.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
With the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season rapidly ramping up, a top official in the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction says officials are racing to ready Grand Bahama schools that were damaged by Hurricane Dorian last September as hurricane shelters, with repairs to some schools still ongoing. Lewis says government has enlisted the help of local hotels on that island should a storm make landfall this year. Jasmine Brown reports.
State Minister for Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction, IRAM Lewis, gave an update on the schools that are expected to be used as hurricane shelters this hurricane season. Lewis was asked about the issue after schools were not listed on the official shelter list for New Providence and Grand Bahama. This was his response.
But all of the schools, again, I mentioned a few of them earlier. Jack Hayward Junior High School is in excellent shape. St. Mary Patricia is in excellent shape. St. George's is completed. We're just finalizing the gym. And based on what I saw yesterday during my inspection, that gymnasium is ready. 8 Mile Rock High School is ready. And for the first time, we are air conditioning the 8 Mile Rock gym. Not that the power will be on during the hurricane. But of course, just to say that we are creating upgrades. We have checked in with all of the facilities that have the backup generators to ensure that they are properly fueled.
Lewis says while most schools are ready, there are those that still need work.
All of the schools on Grand Bahama, I would say the larger ones for East Grand Bahama, Morrison Primary, the roof is completed, the windows and doors are completed, and is ready to be used as a shelter. Hugh Campbell, which is perhaps the largest one, the most difficult one, is again ready to go. I believe the only one that's lagging behind is Jack Hayward Junior High, because that is a multi-story structure, and we had more technical work to be done there. But based on the speed at which the contractor is working, we believe that will also be ready. So we certainly, at the moment, we have redundancies.
NEMO officials have said using schools as hurricane shelters is a part of their strategic plan to foster social distancing as the global COVID-19 pandemic continues to rage. They have said classrooms will be used to separate large groups of people who are typically housed in large gymnasiums. Lewis says as the work on schools continue, they have also secured the use of Grand Bahama hotels as shelters.
We also have some of our hotels on board. Royal Islander is where we use to evacuate the persons from Sweeting Ski. So again, in addition to that, that was not also listed, but we do have redundancies in our system.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Still to come on Our News, a controversial pastor thinks the poor man is on the losing end of emergency orders.
Journey TV presents the most open, honest, and revealing life stories. These stories of survival and strength will inspire you because there is freedom and healing in every story. Join me and my guest every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. and Sunday at 5:30 p.m. during the month of August on RTV channel 212 for real life conversations. Journey TV, we share life's truths.
With time winding down to the next general election, here in the Bahamas, leader of the Democratic National Alliance, ARINTHIA, KOMOLAFE, believes that the party has learned from past losses and is ready to win the next election. Giorgio Bain reports.
The Democratic National Alliance, which launched ahead of the 2012 general election, has yet to secure a seat in Parliament. However, party leader ARINTHIA KOMOLAFE is predicting that will change in 2022. KOMOLAFE said a common concern expressed by voters is the fear of giving an inexperienced government a try. However, she questions the wisdom of re-electing the same politicians.
We have had external shock and challenge after challenge, and we have relied on what some may say is quote-unquote experience, and look where we find ourselves. You know, we've been downgraded. Our economy has been, our sovereign rating has been downgraded under previous administrations, so-called experienced administrations, 4 in one administration, 3 in another administration, and this current administration is on track to really increasing causing the credit rating to go even down further.
Following the party's loss in 2017, KOMOLAFE said a lot of suggestions were taken into consideration, including the selection of candidates, a process she says has been revamped.
We wanted to correct a lot of those things. One of those being the quality of our candidates, or the fact that persons did not know our candidates. And so we have a application process where persons are able to go and apply via our website on mydnaparty.org, and they can make an application if they want to be a member of parliament, a cabinet minister, a diplomat, a senator, ambassadors. We're not limiting it because we're trying to form a government, not just put people forward for representative politics.
As for what the party hopes to tackle on the campaign trail, KOMOLAFE says they will be sticking to their charter of governance, as they proposed changes have yet to be implemented by any other government.
Some of the areas that we really want to focus on are the areas that we've been pounding on for the last several years, moving toward energy security and alternative energy, food security, and ensuring that we are able to feed ourselves and sustain ourselves when we face external shocks like Dorian, like COVID-19. We've also been speaking about changing the system of governance, which is moving away from the democratic monarchy to a democratic republic. And that's something that we're very strong on, and really moving away from the vestiges of our colonial and imperial past. Other things that we're focusing on is obviously economic growth.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
Pastor of Zion Baptist Church, T.G. Morrison, is calling on the competent authority to consider the small man when passing emergency orders. According to Morrison, many are hurting as a result of ongoing closures.
There are so many businesses who are just trying to rebound. They still have to pay the taxes that the government demand of them. They still have to pay the custom duty. They still have to do. And when you lock them down without warning, what happens to the persons in their employ? What happens against the backdrop of all their indebtedness? I mean, there's only so much the National Insurance Board is going to be able to do. The money's going to run out at some point. There's only so much social services can do. The money's going to run out at some point. We don't have the luxury of first world nations to be able to print money. What's going to happen?
Morrison is calling on consistency among those who are given breaks during this time.
But I think that we are frustrating people more, and I think it's going to come to a fever pitch in this country where people just make up in their mind, this does not make sense, especially when they see glaring anomalies in other islands where persons who obviously have money and I guess ability to cajole the powers that be, are able to get concessions. What about the masses? What about the poor people?
The controversial pastor says he fears that ongoing and proper emergency orders will result in frustration and lawbreaking.
In one breath, you're saying we're in this for a long ride. We're going to have to learn how to live with this disease. But then every moment that you feel that there's a crisis, and some of these crises are predicated upon our decisions, the way we roll out stuff, the loopholes that we allow people to be able to jump through, the things that we say that create panic and cause people to act in ways that are unseemly. All those things are not taken into consideration, but at the end of the day, the masses must comply.
A local youth advocate is encouraging young men to reach out for help if they need it. Eric Fox said the pandemic has brought on hard times, and if young men are caught in a domestic dispute, they can find shelter within his program. Jillian Gray reports.
Executive Director of Teen Challenge Bahamas, Eric Fox, said the lockdowns have forced him to be more lenient when accepting people into his program. Fox, who runs a halfway house shelter and rehabilitation center, said during the lockdowns he's gotten calls from officers at 1 a.m. seeking help for homeless men.
They can't keep the young man in the station unless he's arrested. So I put it out there to the police officers that if you run into some young man, or not young women, young man who doesn't have a place to stay, or sleeping in his car, or walking the streets, or sleeping on the park, or you sleeping on the beach, rather than arresting him, call me. I'm making some adjustments.
At the peak of the lockdown period, there were as many as 19 men at the home. Fox said there are currently about 8 beds vacant, and he is appealing to men who need it to seek help. He added that with many out of work, he understands that people are hurting and domestic disputes can arise.
I also take persons in the domestic situation. Things are tough. Guys are home with their family. Children are there. There's conflict. When there's no food, no bills being paid, there's conflict. So I had a few young men that had to be removed from the home rather than being locked up, removed from the home, and I put them in my shelter just to relieve some stress off them, where they get some food, they get some internet, they get a nice shower, they get clothes, and then we can start to build their lives and open the doors for them to get a job and go back and be with their family eventually.
Fox also offers aid through grocery distribution. As an advocate for young men, he said it hurt his heart to see so many of them going before the court for trying to make an income as roadside vendors.
I believe in order, but I still think there needs to be some flexibility. You know, if you have a young man that's selling coconut or selling coconut water, man, Jesus, man. Mm-hmm. You know, give him a little oblige, man. From what I understand, a business license is free, right? You go online and get it, right? If you don't have a computer, send inland revenue out there to them and type it up and put it in and give them a business license. That's an encouragement to them, man.
Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Jillian Gray.
When Our News comes back from the break, how a local movement is celebrating Emancipation Day.
Journey TV presents the most open, honest, and revealing life stories. These stories of survival and strength will inspire you because there is freedom and healing in every story. Join me and my guest every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. and Sunday at 5:30 p.m. during the month of August on RTV Channel 212 for real-life conversations. Journey TV, we share life's truths.
Welcome back. Just a few weeks after it was launched, the Unchaining movement is celebrating Emancipation Day by launching an educational series in hopes of getting more Bahamians educated on the country's history, social ills, and what it takes to further progress. Alaya Hagigal is a member of the Unchaining and is the member of the Unchaining series which launched today.
And it is a series that I'm hoping people will be interested in, as we don't really get to know all of the deep and juicy bits of our history. We don't really know, for example, that we had the regiment of soldiers who were this crazy group of people who were responsible for protecting the country. We don't know that we we have a history of interdicting slave ships and freeing slaves. So all of these things in tandem together, Bahamians should know to be motivated, that this is where we come from, this is who we descend from.
The educational series can be found on all of the Unchaining social media platforms. The group was formed as a voice for the young and old interested in pushing for change within the Bahamas.
We're also publishing a statement in celebration of Emancipation Day to educate Bahamians, to remind them to think critically about the future of this nation, and to also let our government officials know that Bahamians are tired and we are no longer asking, we are demanding reform. As it stands currently, the standard of mediocrity and inactivity by our government officials to reform our very broken country is unsustainable. So in order to actually achieve our goals of reform in economic, the educational, and the criminal justice sector, we have to band together and address the many poignant forms of discrimination in our shores.
Coming up, a homeless mother expresses her gratitude.
Journey TV presents the most open, honest, and revealing life stories. These stories of survival and strength will inspire you because there is freedom and healing in every story. Join me and my guest every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. and Sunday at 5:30 p.m. during the month of August on RTV channel 212 for real-life conversations. Journey TV, we share life's truths.
A homeless mother is expressing her thanks to those who helped her. While she said she's not out of the woods yet, she says things are a little brighter due to the generosity of others. Jillian Gray reports.
When Our News team met Crystal Fox last week, she was living out of 2 small bags, pleading for help. Since then, she said people have provided hot meals and a temporary place to stay.
But all thanks to the beautiful people who tried their best and gave from what the little they had, with food, hot meals and stuff like that. Even Bishop Walter Henschel from People Assembly reached out, put me up here for a week, brought me a little bit of groceries and stuff.
Fox's story was shared over 700 times on Facebook and viewed more than 30,000 times. Fox, who said she was grateful for the help, said she is still not out the woods. Without a stable income, Fox and her daughter will continue to depend on the generosity of others. She said she hasn't been able to secure a job.
I got some resumes filled in. I got 2 people to call me, Tropical. I'm trying to take my resumes into different places, reference and stuff. I already did 2 places, hoping and praying that they called me.
With the current housing assistance she received coming to an end, Fox said she is actively looking for a permanent home for her family.
I was looking also for an apartment, but don't have the first and last to really get it until I really get what I really want to get. It's hard getting around, no buses running, so.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.